RTD Live Talk, Detroit's number one midday YouTube talk show. Excited to be back for a second live stream today. And I couldn't help myself on this one just because the headlines itself speak for themselves. But I want to talk about the false flag event or the fake false flag event underway, and how it could be used and more than likely will be used as a stimulant to the economy now that the monetary policies are not working and they're dialing back. And I think this could be the boost that the economy needs to keep things going or kick the can further down the line, all disguised as helping, liberate the Ukrainian people from the Russian oligarchy type of stuff. So anyway, go talk about that. I got a couple articles here. But as always, for those tuned in, feel free to let me know where you're watching from via the chat. Any new viewers, any first-time viewers, feel free to let me know where you're watching from. We'll love to acknowledge your presence. And then when the phone lines open, 313-462-0027 is the number to call and let your voice be heard. We'd love to hear from you guys directly. So, so I was just minding my own business, not doing much. Had a good little conversation with Mario earlier and came across some headlines because I tend to scroll through the headlines throughout the day just to keep a pulse on what's going on. And came across an interesting headline that I'm going to talk about in a minute. And get your thoughts on it and share my 2 cents on it and how things are starting to make a little bit more sense when you put all the pieces of the puzzle together. But before I do that, let me acknowledge a couple of people. We got Monkey King checking in. We got Mr. Steve 72 checking in. We got Jason checking in. Says, I live in Iowa and silver is getting scarce. A guy in front of me dropped $100K on silver bullion. Really? Somebody came into the store, dropped 100 bands. Okay, that's definitely somebody got their weight up at that moment. We got JoJo checking in. We got Angie. We got Excalibur. We got Faith checking in. Joe checking in from Guyana in the house. Appreciate you, my man. How's everything down in your neck of the woods? Let us know. We got Cheryl from Iowa. We have Braveheart. We got Clara. We got Anthony from South Carolina. Road King. We got Shane checking in. Mike Midnight Green. We got Tim Ryan from Colorado. Kenneth, Victor, Jeff Yu, Will Smith checking in. Appreciate you guys for hanging out with us. Victor in Texas. Also, the whole purpose of the People's Talk Show is to give you guys a chance to check in, let me know what's happening in your neck of the woods so we can all stay in tune. So I'll just skim through some of the headlines of things that caught my attention, share my 2 cents on it, and let you guys dive in further. Looks like we got a fair amount of individuals from around the country, and I appreciate you guys plugging in. So for several weeks now, as we've gone into this new year, I've talked about just expectations for the upcoming months and primarily surrounding the Federal Reserve narrative of them being able to taper and actually pull off this tightening phase without there being any glitches in the system. And over the last week or two of being in the new year, the narrative that they are continuing to preach is just too optimistic for me. When you have, central bankers as well as commercial bank CEOs coming out speaking favorably about the Federal Reserve being able to dial back and actually get 3, maybe 4, or even Jamie Dimon talked about maybe 6 rate hikes in a single year. Those type of things have never been done. And the Federal Reserve, based upon prior events, have proven that they have not been able to dial back when they start accommodating because the entire system is built upon them continue to pump in currency to inflate things forward or deflate it. And this all comes to an end. But now that Jerome Powell has admitted over the last year or two, basically saying that monetary policy can no longer, it's reached the height of it. They can no longer continue to outright try to provide accommodations. They need help from the government. And so we saw stimulus checks and stuff like that. That was the fiscal side of things. But then, like Gerald Salente always says, when everything else fails, they usually take you to war. And it looks like that is going to be the narrative that they try to put out to us. And what caught my attention, and which I wanted to just bring this to you guys, and just this headline alone tells me everything that they would like to use as an excuse for what might be coming in the next days, weeks, or whatever. Who knows? But my biggest thing is that when you're told that a false flag is underway or in operations, that lets you know that they want this whole event to actually be the real event. And so typically the word false flag is used by the alternative media when we basically put together the pieces of the puzzle to realize that was a staged event. It was fake. It was not real. That's the alternative media job. But when the real narrative comes out that a false flag is actually taking place now, and it's between two other nations that has nothing to do with American soil, none whatsoever, to me, that's the sign that they're getting desperate and they're looking for anything they can to basically try to prolong the system as best they can. But it says U.S. intel suggests Russia is preparing. So once again, who actually trusts U.S. intel? Because U.S. intel hasn't been good for too much when it comes to the events that have unfolded in this country here. All U.S. intel was pretty much missing in action, i.e., 9/11. No real intel was given. We have all the stuff happening at the border. No intel really is given. You name it. Name any event that might come to mind that was a major event that was used as some type of event momentum to get something going as far as the government intruding into our lives. No U.S. intel was available then, but right now it looks like because of what Russia is apparently doing, where they're basically defending their borders from NATO, they're preparing a false flag, and this has to do with some cyber attacks. So just this headline in and of itself lets me know that they're trying to sell the event to the American population by saying that Russia is the aggressor. And once again, the history between that whole region there goes a lot deeper than I'm even familiar with. But one thing I do know, the United States of America, we have no real, there's no national risk or no security or national risk to our security here in the United States of America whatsoever. So we know this is more of a globalist agenda to try to push that narrative of Russia, 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 Russia as much as they want. And mind you, just the whole, the creation of NATO in and of itself was 50, 60 years ago during the whole Cold War push for the Soviet Union and stuff like that was geared towards always making Russia the enemy. So no matter what, Russia is going to be used as an scapegoat for everything. And it looks like the most recent event happens to be, as we're being told, once again, this is an ultimate distraction. It says Ukraine hit with a cyber attack, a tactic it expected to precede a full invasion by Russia. And so just more false narratives being thrown at us to keep us distracted from what's really going on, to take our attention off of what the hopium the Federal Reserve is trying to feed us. And just to show you how much they're really trying to sell this, I typed in Ukraine cyber attack. And today alone, within the last hour, they've been pumping these things out. So many headlines talking about Ukraine hit with cyber attack. U.S. offers Ukraine support and need to recover from cyber attack. Several Ukrainian government websites breached in massive cyber attack. So just today is the day where they want to make sure they make it known on a Friday that there's something happening right now. The U.S. we need to stand up and protect the innocent guy from the big bad wolf or the big bad bear in this case, and using Russia as an scapegoat. So reason I wanted to log in today and to talk some more about this, because wouldn't it be something else is that within the next couple of weeks, days, I've always been talking about some type of event, and cyber attack was always a part of the equation here domestically with the financial system here. And of course, around the world, we see other events taking place that's being staged. And now we have the possibility of a military conflict. And once again, once we go that route, it won't be an easy, couple day type of event. This thing could draw out and God knows how far to go. But what it would do, it would buy the government more time, because that would mean there will be an instant congressional hearing at the same time that, the whole division amongst the left and right in DC over the midterm coming up. It would get everybody on the same page as far as the need to support this effort to defend the democracy of Ukraine is what it'll be used as. And that right there it's easily a $4, maybe $5 trillion type of package that they could put together, name it, Liberate the World from Russia Act or something like that. And it's good to say Democrats and Republicans will come in agreement on that, and they would probably pass that. And that 4 or 5 trillion would be created out of thin air. And it would go towards now reactivating the military industrial complex. Because mind you, it's been a while since I remember, all the Lockheed Martins and Dynamic, whatever, and Boeings and all those military companies actually getting, stimulated themselves. I don't know what their stock prices are doing now. I haven't been into many military conflicts, but I bet you that would definitely be a boost to the service sector in regards to those jobs or whatnot. And so things are lining up too well to where it's no such thing as a coincidence. Right now, all this narrative of a cyber attack from Russia, shutting down the Ukrainian government websites and stuff like that. And even in one of these articles here, it gives the headlines. Let me see here. It talks about the actual message that was left in the hack itself. Talked about, buckle down, get ready for something or another. So here you go, right here. It says, I'll show you this on the screen. And then I'll love to get your guys' thoughts on this. It talks about the comments came hours after Ukraine was hit by a massive cyber attack, warning its citizens to quote, expect the worst, is what I guess the message was attached to that or something like that. And so I couldn't help myself. I had to talk about this just because it's right on time. Beginning of the year, mainstream narrative, according to the economic recovery, is still going good, positive. The Fed is dialing back to fight inflation. They really can't do it. So they need an excuse to stimulate a little bit more. And what better way to do it than to boost the economy, in a sense, fiscally, by going into some type of military conflict. So it's something to be concerned with, because this could prolong their plans. And you look into it as well. If they were, meaning, government came together, talked about trying to, support Ukrainian and fight Russia, with the war drums, that could be 3, 4, 5 trillion, however they spend it. And then how would the monetary policy, how would that easing actually take place? Could, because the Federal Reserve would be purchasing that. And so they could come out and say everything was fine. The recovery was good. We were on point for our 3, 4, 5 hikes, but we didn't. This unforeseen event occurred with cyber attacks in Russia, and we got back into the bond purchasing business and whatever comes from that. So they won't be with dialing down on their asset purchases. They'll be increasing them more than likely, but it'll be a good excuse, because at that time there'll be so much focus on all the military stuff to go along with all the other stuff they're trying to throw at us. So it'll be right on time, in my opinion. So anyway, that's kind of what's happening in the headlines now. I think it's worth mentioning, just because we all knew something was happening. Something was going to come up that could be a distraction from what they're attempting to accomplish, because that narrative of being able to dial back and support and minimize inflation, we all know that can't happen. Anyway, let's talk. I'm curious to get your thoughts on some things. Feel free to open up the phone lines in 1 second. I see some questions out here. Let me try to answer these questions as best I can. Mr. Steve 72 says, China shutting down their ports, I hear. Yes. So there's been reports out of the Asian media, basically some provinces within China. I know for sure one, but I think more than one, around regions where there's ports located. And because those regions are in lockdown, that means all commerce stops, everything manufacturing stops. So there's definitely some issues with that underway. I don't know the extent of it, but that's definitely something that, it's being done over there that will impact us here, because all those made in China goods won't be on ships heading this way. Therefore, at some point down the line, further clogging up the supply chain issues as well. So that is definitely, and it's all disguised as, the way to respond to this variant that we're experiencing. Like, they're using, at first, the first 2-3 weeks of Omicron, if you guys remember, before it was supposed to be labeled G, which was the next line of Greek alphabetic characters to use. They skipped that, went right to Omicron. And so, Omicron. And so it was first very mild. Still, everybody and their mama says mild, but they want to continue to pump cases. And of course, China's jumping on the bandwagon as well, because it's all about control. They want to, control the economy from every angle they can, minimizing any idea of people having actual rights still. In China, they were already ahead of the game with that. So I wonder if the Chinese people are getting fed up with that, or because of their nature and their culture, are they subservient to where they believe Xi and in full support of what he's doing? I doubt it, but most people probably won't stand up and say much over there. Keep it going. Let me keep it going. Let me see here. I see some more thoughts, and then I'll open the phone lines officially, and we can talk and share your 2 cents on it. See, Faith Man, or they're waiting on a Black Swan event. I think they're trying to sell this event in Ukraine as that it's not even a black swan when you're kind of told that it's coming, but it's definitely a fake false flag because the headline says Russia's U.S. intel is showing that or suggests that Russia's planted a false flag within Ukraine. It's like, when the hell did our intel get that good to where they can sniff out something like that if it's real? Once again, it's a fake story. I don't think nothing like that is happening. Pedro says false flag is something you see after, not before it happens. So easy to shout false flag before and accuse already who did it. CNN, 100%. And that's the thing. Like, false flags is primarily what the alternative media says about events after they unfold. And then we put together the dots and point it to the main source, which end up usually being some type of government agency in of itself, usually. And so the fact that they're telling us it ahead of time lets us know that that's what they want to use as an excuse to get the U.S. involved. Mr. Steve says 99% of people only read headlines, but you have to dig deep into the articles themselves. 100%. But even the articles, think about the sources. All these headlines I just showed you, they're just, they're being paid for media sources by the people just trying to orchestrate this entire experience. So everything they tell us is slanted in their favor. So we won't get no version of truth unless we take what's been told in Asia and what we get here and come together in the middle and determine what we think is most likely to be the case, which will still be off, but it's more than the average Joe will even think about because it's Friday right now. The war drums are beating. Most people are completely oblivious because it's Friday night, long week at work. You want to go out and have fun and da-da-da-da-da. You don't know the world around you is being shaped in accordance to what these people are trying to accomplish. Let's keep it moving. All right, let me see here. It says, blame a guy on a horse in a cave. So I see what I assume we're talking about Mr. Bin Laden. Let me see here. Keep it going. I see some here. It says, how did Osama bin Laden even fly that plane and then escape to Iraq and then do that? Oh, yeah. So once again, Osama bin Laden was just an orchestrator, supposedly from a cave, giving orders somewhere in the Middle East to individuals that were paid. And of course, if you watch all the videos, you all know that, it was more of Israel, the Israelis behind that than anything else. There's more videos circulating in the last umpteen years to kind of prove that is, the real deal. And then to take it even further, I actually saw on Telegram yesterday some video footage from somebody on the ground. Clearly, it was somebody's handheld camera, and they were pointing up to the Twin Towers at the time that they exploded. And the point in that whole video was that, according to the video that I saw with my own eyes, of course, it might have been doctored, who knows, but one of the buildings blew up and what didn't hit the building. So it's one of the things where, like, man, like, were we even the video footage of the airplanes crashing 20 years ago? Is that a possibility that film was actually doctored and they implemented those planes or what? Because there's still a lot of people who question a lot of the stuff that went down there. And of course, I questioned it all along because I realized it was not what it was supposed to be or what we were told. So, but anyway, just a video that caught me by surprise because once again, I saw an explosion, but I didn't see no planes. Let me see here. Keep it moving. Saddam got turned on for gold, dancing Israelis. Yeah, I saw a lot of stuff about the Israelis being involved in that. So, okay, so I am missing some phone calls. Let's talk. Curious to hear what you guys think. Wanted to just plug in and share my 2 cents on this because once again, expecting some type of event, but not to be told that a false flag is underway because that right there debunks the whole idea of it being a real event. But yeah, it will continue to be pushed forward, as we move into next week, especially because over the weekend, weekends is typically when things jump off. We could probably see something crazy happening over the weekend. Just so you guys will be aware. Musa, we want Musa 10 years ago, oil, rain, dancing, Israelis. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So feel free to give me a call. Let me know what your thoughts are. If not, it's going to be a quick live stream. I just want to check in, share my 2 cents. Tomorrow is a big day, Mike. LBP, what are we referring to? What's going on? What's on the agenda? Let me know. And then also let me I was looking at this map as well and just looking at how the narrative is being painted by the Western media, especially, and all their allies. We have Russia, the country, which is a fairly massive piece of land. You look at all this up here, and the U.S. and NATO are arguing that they don't want Russia to invade Ukraine and all that stuff. But just the fact that Russia feels threatened enough to want to protect their borders, they have buku amounts of troops along their border. And to the west, that's, I guess, the defenders of the free world, everything else in between, they're telling Russia to dial back on protecting your borders. And then, of course, Russia's put up some red lines that they won't go by and go with. And so that's kind of where we're at now. So it looks like the talks that they were attempting to hold, nothing came of it that was beneficial for Russia to where they're not backing down. And it doesn't surprise me one bit. Hello, caller. Where you calling from?
Hi, Mike. This is Dennis Jansen calling for you from Yashkaba, Mexico.
Dennis, what's going on, my friend? Give me a quick thought.
Well, I'm doing great. I called yesterday and I misspoke. So forgive me. I want to explain something.
No problem. Give it to me quick.
I said you misspelled Yashaba. It's Yaxcaba. You know, please forgive me. I was educated in public schools in the United States.
Or is it you say YAX? What else?
Yeah, YAXCABA.
Okay. Watch about Mexico. Okay, good deal. Because I was typing it. I was trying to use that, you know, based upon what I heard, to type it in. I'm like, ain't nothing popping up. But anyway, man, friend, what's your thoughts on this? What's your thoughts on this whole false flag event? This Russia, U.S., you know, narrative they're trying to pump down our throat. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I love talking about 9/11, where 2 planes bring down 3 buildings, and you know, magic jet fuel, which can only burn to 15, 17 Fahrenheit, melt steel. You know, the whole thing's so ridiculous. If you think about when the planes hit those 2 twin towers, not World Trade Center 7, those planes did not, or those buildings did not fall for 50 minutes later. Wouldn't that steel have cooled off?
I mean, that's probably what would happen normally, yes, but not when there's some other things added to it, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, the thermite has been analyzed in the past. I mean, it's clearly a false flag. They're using my home state as launching a lot of false flags right now, which is Wisconsin, like the one in Waukesha. You know, the cat's out of the bag. Your listeners know this.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I said yesterday. I don't know how y'all can pay taxes to this criminal organization that is killing you all, and it's just sick.
Yeah.
But Dr. Paul had on the Liberty Report, you know, is it time for a revolution? He should have said revolt.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, I thought they were going to start a fake war with Iran, which would be a proxy war where, you know, it'd be China and Russia fighting the United States on Iran, you know, the different soccer field. But, you know, apparently Biden's got to protect his interests that he has in that Ukraine oil and gas. So I guess, you know, the American public will be lied into another war, another fake war. You know, the United States hasn't declared a war since 1942. They're all operations, Operation Freedom, Operation, you know, Patriot Act. I mean, everything is the opposite of what they say. But yeah, they'll lie the public into war, you know, maybe get a new Colin Powell up there to lie. And the American public will be distracted. And it'll be another case of problem, reaction, solution. And the solution is to take what little rights in the greatest country, free country in the world, give me a break, the United States of Israel. You know, so...
Well, hey,
that's my thought.
Hey, man, I appreciate you. If they stay, I put in the correct spelling for Yashua, so I'll definitely check that out, man. But thanks for calling in again. Appreciate you.
You take care.
Yeah, be good.
Goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's good. And so I see in the comments people talking about, you know, why we still talk about 9/11? I mean, because that was the ultimate event that got all this started, man. Like that's the Patriot Act when I came in, everything that was implemented ain't been rolled back. That was 20 years into the making, and for the most part, you know, we're onto a new war, and it's, you know, war on cases, but yet it looks like, you know, war itself is profitable any way you can get one going, apparently, because it benefits those that get the contracts, and we know who get the contracts. You know, now it's the pharmaceutical industrial complex, but military industrial complex has been lacking the last couple of years, especially since, there's no more I guess terrorists, was the Al Qaeda and Israel, Hezbollah, all them, entities created by our government, whatever. And so now the new war, of course, they're talking about domestic terrorism. So guess who the enemy is of the government now? Unfortunately, it's going to be parents that don't want their children taught all types of craziness in school and stuff like that and more. Anyway, let's keep it moving. Feel free to call in. Let me know what's on your mind. Says, how everyone doing in the world? I hope all warm, fun, food and bed. Victor says, hope everyone's doing well, doing in the world. Hope everyone's warm, food, warm bed. Yeah, definitely, man. As long as your necessities provided for, you're blessed. I just think it's worth always bringing to the everyone's attention as best as we can events that are unfolding around us so that no one's caught blindsided and actually believe in the hype. Because I think if people... Of course, I mean, everything is a psyop in a sense. Everything is using social media, the mainstream media, news. That's the best way to paint a narrative to try to get people to believe. And so right now, with all this warning ahead of time, blaming Ukraine, we've had more than enough cyber attack exercises to where if something does happen of a real event, they're going to say it was Russia and they can blame it on. And I even saw somebody mention about, what's happening in Russia or in Ukraine, rather, with their cyber attack. If the U.S. was to respond immediately, the cyber attack that they've all been preparing for could take place all over the world. And they could say Russia unleashed the massive spyware, malware, nuclear, or whatever they want to say, that took down the world's financial system. And it'll make it that much easier. Everybody and their mother would believe it just because the seeds have been laid. So people are literally being groomed to think that Russia is the bad guy. And even when you search through Twitter a little bit, I see more people nowadays talking more about, with FJB than anything else. So I even see people talk about, I would trust Putin more than I trust Joe Brandon. So you see how the world no longer really going along with this, man. More people are waking up and realizing that, the lies need to stop because you can't really hide stuff no more, man. Let me see here. What good does it to do to talk about it? Should talk about what's going on today. I'm assuming you're referring to going back 20 years ago, talking about that event. It's just one example of many that have been thrown our way to just highlight how much our government themselves are the reason why all these events unfold. It's all surrounding, of course, trying to keep supremacy of the world, using the Federal Reserve System and using debt to, export around the world for real goods. We know how that goes. Hello, caller. Where are you calling from?
Yeah, Mike, Steve, from Region 9.
Steve, what's going on, my friend?
Oh, yeah, you know they got something on the stove cooking. There's no doubt about it.
Exactly. It's just it's interesting how they're trying to sell Russia, of course, as being the bad guy, and that the cyber attack in Ukraine is because of them. It's like, come on, man. But yeah, I guess it sells.
They got that big pot of stew up there stirring it. no doubt. As they say, that dog don't hunt.
What else is going on with you, man?
Well,
yeah.
Matter of fact, while you were talking, it reminded me of the movie JFK and Joe Pesci's classic rant.
Mm-hmm.
In that movie, I just sent it to you in the email. If you can drop it into the community there.
Okay.
It's about 3 minutes.
Right.
But it's just a classic Joe Pesci rant on basically the government and how the government operates.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, one thing too.
Yeah.
I want to see, had anybody heard about? I think it was a couple of days ago or so, where there was some type of missile alert where they grounded. There was a national alert.
The FAA, North Korea let off a missile towards the east or something like that, and I guess along the west coast, all commercial flights had to land right away, or something like that.
Correct.
Yeah. That was suspicious in itself, man. So what is a missile coming from North Korea? I'm assuming our defense system supposedly will be able to stop something like that. So why would they have to shut down the West Coast from flying unless there's something else to the equation, which of course there is.
Yeah. Was that on the news? Did that make the news at all?
I saw some news headlines, some articles or whatnot, but I didn't actually see I don't actually watch the news itself. I just check our article headlines. But very concerning. At the same time, the whole 5G stuff is starting as well. So it's like, pick your poison. What's this really about?
Oh, correct. Well,
yeah.
Matter of fact, Steve Quayle was on the Hagler Report last night. That was a good show. I can send that to you right after we get off the phone.
Okay, I'll share it.
And you can, yeah, but that was a very good. It was a very good interview.
Yeah.
And he talked about the Glyph project briefly. I wish he would talk about that. I wish he would talk about that more.
What was that? What project? What was that again?
Yeah, he talked about the Glyph project.
Glyph project.
That he's been doing for a couple of years now.
Okay.
Interpreting some of these relic languages that are quote unquote making a comeback now.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah. He gets deep into biblical stuff with that, but I'll leave that there.
But I'll check it to it, man.
Yeah, I'll get off of here.
Well, appreciate you calling, man. Always good to hear your voice.
All right, you guys take care.
Be good. Yeah, good stuff, man. Worth stuff worth checking out too. Let me see. It says Rolf says, "What about when the U.S. destroyer shot down the Iranian airliner with a few hundred people on board, 1983, I think." Yeah, okay, that's just one of many events where the U.S. and also to come to think about it, I think Steve mentioned Iran, or somebody mentioned Iran, but I saw something a couple weeks ago about Iran wanting to retaliate on Trump for having killed their military general 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and stuff like that. So, yeah, man, the U.S. has been terrorizing the world forever, man, and everything's come home to roost, and they're trying their best to keep this thing going, man. So I guess the biggest thing is, of course, we don't want war. We know that we don't want war, especially with Russia, because I don't think it's going to be it will never be a fair war, because I'm more confident that their technology far surpasses us based upon what we know about what we have. Of course, there's a lot more that we don't know, i.e., Area 51 and every other area that's been hidden, and especially what's down at the bottom of the world. So anyway, man, I just wanted to connect real quick, share my 2 cents on this, and let you know that war is a fiscal booster. So that is another way that the Federal Reserve could buy themselves some time, because Uncle Sam can step in and have to borrow some more. And who's going to monetize that? The Federal Reserve. They're going to come in and buy it, and here we are off to war. So Silver Beast says we are already at war, no doubt. But I'm talking about the military kind coming up, even more so. Right now, the war we're in is against the pharmaceutical industry and their fight for supremacy of the markets by pumping these cases out here as if that stuff is really something to be concerned with overall. But anyway, be blessed, be safe. Just want to check in real quick. I missed some calls, but wasn't going to be on long. Be plugged back in. Might do something tomorrow if I can. So I'm trying to get, plug in more often, give you guys a chance to let your voice be heard. So trying to cut them down to 30 minutes or so, get more stories covered. But anyway, be blessed, be safe. I will see you guys later. Peace. Visit Rethinking the Dollar throughout the day. Your place for news on metals, gold, crypto, you name it. Scroll down to the bottom and you get a chance to see the daily videos, the recommended videos, and more importantly, the 5 reasons to unplug from the monetary matrix, with the first one being the awakening period. Step number 1, test your dollar IQ. 10 simple questions, average is 60%. Follow up with the alternative perspective with the monetary reports. Consider becoming a supporter of the Rethinking the Dollar platform via Patreon. Get a chance to hang out off air, as well as additional information that can't be discussed on YouTube. Any support is helpful. With the crackdown on alternative media, the best thing to do is to connect off air. Scroll down to the very bottom. You can find Rethinking the Dollar on Telegram, audio, Facebook, Twitter, Parler, you name it. The most important ones will be the email list where you can get notified weekly, the Discord page, and make sure you connect on Telegram. And last, don't forget to visit the RTD store where you can get merchandise as well as additional information and resources. And most importantly, scroll down to the bottom and get your weight up with all the limited edition rounds only available on the RTD store.